All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Entrepreneur Coffee Break on October 17th, 2022, kicking off Small Business Week 2022. I know I sent out a post yesterday. Officially, I think it started on Sunday. Most of the week, the events for most of us as business owners are throughout the week, starting today. And I know that in the Corner Brook area, Sherry was up at the City Hall doing the proclamation to kick off Small Business Week. I saw that the Long Range Mountains did their proclamation, I think in Stephenville this morning. So I saw that posted as well. So lots of different things happening for Small Business Week. So thank you for joining us. My name is Carol Spicer, and I'm the owner of Spicer Facilitation and Learning, and I'm joining you from the beautiful community of Pasadena, which is on the unceded territory of the ancient Beothuk. And I do take a moment to acknowledge with respect the diverse traditions and cultures of all the Indigenous people in our province, the Mi'kmaq, the Innu, the Inuit, the Southern Labrador Inuit, and the Beothuk as well. I ask that you think about where you're joining us from today as we all gather on these lands. I want to thank our sponsor today is CBDC Humber. Toby Biggin and I had a conversation about what we would like to chat about for today's coffee break. And so I'm very pleased to welcome Derek Barrett from the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So for those that haven't yet done so, if you want to pop over into chat and just say a quick hello and let folks know who you are and where you're joining us from, and we'll get things started. So the Entrepreneur Coffee Break, many of us have met in person, gone for coffee. My family makes fun of me all the time because, as Sharon knows, I don't drink coffee, but I go for coffee a lot. And back in January 2020, I partnered up with Navigate Small Business, and we started a pilot to do a virtual coffee break. So we've been running this now for 2.5 years. We took a break this summer, and now I am sort of embarking on a different phase of this and looking for different sponsors. So again, just to keep it going, I did do some feedback, and folks are interested in having a virtual option. Not all of us are always able to drive down to a location to meet in person. Although, as Brent and I were just at an event last week, said we're kind of craving that as well. So I think there's a balance and there's a space for both. So hopefully this is your community. If you wish to continue to see it, I'm more than happy to provide the opportunity to bring everyone together. So that's a little bit about sort of what this coffee break is. And today, as I say, we're here to kick off Small Business Week. So thanks again to CBDC Humber. So I'm going to introduce Derek Barrett. Derek has popped his information in chat. As of most people working with Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, quite a long title and division and department name and everything else that goes along with that. So Derek is connected to the labor market. I'm told he's the go-to guy when it comes to talking about labor market stuff. And I'm just going to make you a presenter now, Derek, so you can get your few slides up at some point. And when Toby and I were talking about this session, we started to think about the fact that the labor market definitely seems to have changed, or at least anecdotally it seems to have changed. And so I started investigating who could I talk to find out, what really has changed. And because I know that you seem to go around to communities, there's a lot of hiring signs, and yet people who are looking for work are struggling to find work. So there seems to be some strange dichotomy happening there. I know our daughter over in New Brunswick applied for a job and was told 165 people applied for the position. So there seems to be a lot happening in this space. And I'm pleased to see that we've also got a few folks here from NLWIC, so I'm hoping to draw on some of their findings as well. So Derek, I'm going to turn it over to you. Briefly, I saw your screen up, so if you want to try that again, see if that's...
Yep, before I do, I just want to say thank you for the invitation. And I'm familiar with CBDC operations. I was a past board member and past chair with CBDC Celtic, which is the new name, well, new to me because I haven't been there for many years. It was Southern Shore something or other at that point in time. That was about 15, 20 years ago. So quite familiar with the operation and all the good work that it does. And what I plan to do today, and this hopefully will work. There you go. When I was talking to Carol last week, is just my goal is just to give an overview of some various stats to, in my view, show that the proverbial bum is not out of everything that we're doing here. Things are looking quite positive. And as much as I hate using the term pre-pandemic or pre-COVID, we are doing better than we were doing back, or reaching levels and doing better than we were back in prior to 2020, to when the pandemic struck. So what I'm going to do is just talk about a few different data sources, data points that we use on a regular basis, and just to show some of the positivity that's happening in our provincial labor market. And then we can certainly have a discussion on if there's other areas you want to chat about. I'm certainly open to that. And if I don't know the answers, I can certainly find out and share with you at some point in time in the future. So we always, and just to put into context, we always look at what happens on a year-over-year basis. So we compare the month this year to the same month last year, because that gives us, in our view, a better understanding of how the labor market and the economy is doing. And for that reason, for those people who may or may not be familiar with data coming out of Stats Canada, we typically use what's called unadjusted data. The media likes to report on the adjusted data, which is seasonally adjusted. That's where Stats Canada puts various mathematical models in place to try to smooth out the effects of seasonality, which in our view, we want to talk about the real stuff because we have quite a seasonable environment here. And we feel that the actual data or the unadjusted data is the best to talk about. Seasonality is typically used when they talk about month to month to try to take out those spikes. Like, for example, the labor force from December to January of every year drops. The unemployment rate typically goes up. The number of people working typically goes down because it goes from a Christmas high spending, high activity season to January, where all that activity is not happening to the same extent. So what the seasonal adjustment tends to do is try to make that a bit smoother, as opposed to having a big peak and valley, which is what you would see. But typically, we do not talk about what happens on a month to month, so we wouldn't talk about August to September. We'd go September of this year to September of last year. And as we can see here, things are quite positive. We have our labor force is higher. The number of employed is up 3.7%. This is both full-time and part-time employment. We saw our unemployment rate drop 2.8 percentage points. So all the indicators are going in the proper direction. So that's a positive from our perspective, that things are starting to look good. And I will put the caveat in there, this is provincial level data. And I fully understand and can certainly appreciate that different regions of the province have different challenges, and certainly things might not look as rosy or as positive. And unfortunately, we don't have, and that's the limitation of data. We don't have data going down to lower levels of geography in Newfoundland and Labrador, because we are reliant upon Statistics Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador Stats Agency, and other trusted organizations that provide information. And because of our geography, because of our population demographics, it is challenging to get sub-provincial information. So I just wanted to set that stage there, that we see, looking at September that just passed to September previous year, things are certainly moving in the right direction. And I'm going to focus on a couple of different avenues, not looking at the entire labor force. I just want to focus on youth and older workers, just a slide for each of those. And because those are typically the the labor force that we can try to tap into a bit better to fill the needs that we have. Our core working age, which is 25 to 54, they are running across the province, very high participation rates, very high employment rates. So that's your core age group. Those are the people that I wouldn't say are maxed out, and there's a lot of surplus there, but they are doing much better than our youth, which would be 15 to 24, and what we would classify as older workers, 55 plus. So we can see here on the year-to-date averages for the youth, those 15 to 24. Again, the indicators are going in the right direction. We have less unemployed. I don't know if I got a pointer on this one. You can probably see my mouse. Oh, you can probably see my mouse going around. So we have less unemployed. Looking at the year-to-date averages, the unemployment rate is declining. The numbers of employed are getting higher. Our labor force is slightly a bit higher, and our participation rate, while staying the same, more people are employed and less are unemployed. So this is certainly a group, and again, it's challenging in different regions of the province because of demographics, but this is certainly a segment of our population where workers can certainly come from, and we're seeing that more of them are working, less of them are unemployed, more of them want to work. So it's certainly a group that can be encouraged and enticed to fill the ongoing needs that we may have. If we switch over to the older age group, the 55 plus, and no judging, just this is the term that's used. Older workers is the term used by Stats Canada for those 55 and older. And what we are seeing is people are working longer, according to Stats Canada data. People are working older or into past your typical retirement ages of 16, 65. And what we're seeing here, the year-to-date averages similar to the youth. The numbers are moving in the right direction when we're looking at 2022 compared to same period for 2021. Less unemployed, a slightly higher participation rate, which is the green line. So that's showing more older workers are looking for work and participating in the labor market. We have more people employed, and the unemployment rate is dropping. So things again are moving in the right direction. And this is a more, I guess, in my view, a bit more challenging group to entice to fill your ongoing labor needs. And certainly I'd love to hear your opinions on this as we move forward here this morning. But they have, in reading research, they have their own challenges. Some of them don't want to work full time. Some are only looking for part time. They want to have more flexible hours. And there are other issues that certainly pop up when engaging with the older workforce. However, with that said, I think this is another segment that can certainly be tapped into across the province. And as we know, our demographics are aging. Thus, a lot of our efforts of our department are looking at immigration and how do we grow our population. Our birth rate is not there to help us self-sustain, so we certainly have to look at alternative means, and that means either bringing in more people from other parts of Canada or bringing in newcomers from outside of Canada. And things are certainly moving in a positive direction with that, as we can tell over the recent media reports and population data released by Stats Canada. We're hitting almost 3,000 people the last quarter, an increase through the combination of newcomers from the rest of Canada and from outside of Canada. So while that's certainly a good news part there, our existing group of those 55 and older is certainly a growing and increasing labor market pool that we can tap into. If somebody retires, maybe they still want to work, they just want to retire from career one, maybe they want a career two that they wish to enter into. So certainly we're seeing people go back to work, And this is certainly, in my view, another area that can be tapped into. And I know, and Sharon can certainly speak to it, the recent report and study that uh, St. John's Board of Trade did on the older worker aspect. They calculated, and I don't know the number off top of my head, but there's a significant number of potential people who are older workers slash retired who could be tapped into. Chat about the 55, the older workers. So as I said, you couldn't see the screen obviously while I was talking about it, but this group is certainly moving in positive direction as well, with lower unemployment rates, lower levels of unemployed, higher levels of employed. So again, as I said, it's certainly a segment, a labor segment that can be tapped into, depending on region to region, of course, because some areas have greater levels of older workers compared to others. Looking at the participation rates, which signifies people's involvement in the labor market, going back to 2004, we can certainly see they're all moving in the positive direction. And as I said earlier, that the red line is what we'd classify as core. So 25 to 54, they're been hovering around 80-ish up to 84 over the past many years. So like I said, that's not really an area that has a lot of excess to tap into. But if we start looking at the youth, which is the light blue on the third one down, they've gone from 54.9 up to 62. So more of those youth are being engaged. If we look at the green, that's the 55 to 59, second bar down, or second line down, I should say. That's jumped from 56 up to 68. So their engagement is increasing. Similar, the purple, which is 60 to 64, and as well the 65 and older age group. So the older workers, 55 and older, and the youth are showing the greatest advances and the greatest increases over the past 15 years in engaging in the labor market. So it's certainly an area that employers can tap into for various skills, depending on, of course, what it is you're looking for. Just shifting gears a bit, this slide here shows the latest occupational projections from the Department of Finance. This is the summer of 2022 iteration, so it was released early summer this year. And we've just compiled, it's released on the Department of Finance website in a series of Excel sheets or PDFs. We've just compiled the information to turn into a much more readable slide. And over the next decade, we can see the largest demands, projected openings, are in the sales and service area, business finance administration, trades, transport, equipment operators, and management, and so on down the list. Now, this would take into account, their formula would take into account attrition and new entrants into the labor market, and then potential growth that could be happening in various areas. So it's quite a complicated formula that is developed using a variety of data sets. And they released this about a month, give or take, after the budget release. So the same data that's driving the budget process within government is also the same data that would be used here for these projections. We can see over the next 10 years, we're approaching about 85,000 openings. That's through a series of attrition and growth. Most of it is through attrition. I will say that if you dig into the data, we do see that aspect. So it's a challenge of an aging demographic, that those workers are getting older, and a lot of them are leaving the labor force. But going back to my prior slide, we can see that there are increases in that older age group who are working and want to work and want to continue working. Might not be necessarily in the initial career that they retired from, but certainly open to doing other things. And that's where the challenges come in on understanding their skill sets, understanding their specific needs to try to use that labor segment to fill any demands that you may have. And to hit home some of the change in the median age and just to show that we are getting older, we can see that the St. John's CMA and the 4 CAs, which are census agglomerations, these are population pockets of 10,000 or more. This is based upon Census 2016. Census 2021 data, which just came out, Bay Roberts drops off of this, so we only have 3 census agglomerations or CAs within the province right now. So uh, but unfortunately, I can't update it because this level of data is not available until later this year from census data. So looking at the projection, the past and the estimates from Stats Canada, we can see that the lowest or the youngest people are in St. John's CMA area, followed by Gander and then Corner Brook, Grand Falls, Bay Roberts being the oldest area, and then rural in this situation is the rest of Newfoundland minus those previous ones that are on that chart. So we can see 2021, the estimate of median age in rural Newfoundland is 53.2. So that's quite old, where it's gone in 20 years, it's gone from 39 up to 53. Whereas other areas, if you look at the more urban locations, have gone from mid to late 30s into the mid to high 40s. So not as great, although it is getting older. It is showing the impact of aging on our rural and urban locations. And some population estimate data. This is a combination from Stats Canada and our own Department of Finance. I guess of note here would be the blue, the purple, and the green, and also the orange. So the orange is representing the 15 to 24. The blue, I should say, the bottom blue is our 15 to 24. So those are new entrants coming into the labor market. We can see that group is getting smaller and smaller, has been getting smaller and smaller, and looking out to 2031, 41, again, getting a bit smaller and smaller still. Thus the need to bring in new people to our population because we're not having enough children ourselves to sustain our own provincial population. Looking at the top part, the 3 sections on the top, those are growing, and that's your age bracket of 55 plus. So the 355 to 59, 60, 64, and 65. This is the population. This is not just labor market. This would be the entire population, just to make that point there. But again, we can see here as that's getting bigger, we just saw in a previous slide that those who are working who are in those age brackets, those are certainly working longer and are going back into the labor market, potentially after retirement or continuing on longer, not retiring. So while it's showing that the population is aging, that is a segment that we are seeing positive trends for staying and maintaining the labor market across the province. So it's certainly that would be the positive I would certainly take out of this here. I think that's my last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing. Stop.
Excellent.
And I just wanted to touch on some various topics. And if any questions, comments, bricks or bouquets, I'm good for it all. As I say, I deal in the black and white of data. I'm certainly open to discussing the more gray areas and my views on what I've seen and what we've all experienced. And that's where I'd like to engage with you folks to what are the gray areas? Because everything's not black and white. Different regions of the province have different issues, concerns, and we can't, while the provincial level data may not reflect sub-provincial activities, that's the level of data that we have to deal with. So
Excellent.
I'll hush.
Pauline's got her hand raised. Pauline?
Thank you. Hi, Derek.
Hello.
Just going by the information that you provided, it's clear or it's evident that the information that you've gathered is secondary information. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Stats Canada, Department of
yes,
Finance, etc.
Yes, exactly. So I'm saying to you, I guess, a concern or an issue or whatnot. Like these stats do not take into consideration the well, as you alluded to, the existing happenings within whether it's Corner Brook or different areas throughout the province. And I know working in the post-secondary field, and like when it comes to providing programs, which is my department, it's because we are regulated by the Department of Education, then it's imperative that I connect with industry on two folds. I have to get the labor market information itself, like you have, like from secondary sources. But it's also critical that I connect directly with employers to identify skill need throughout the province, not just in one particular area. And what I've come across, Derek, which can be problematic at times for sure, is that the Department of Education, once I put in a new program, they will actually go to you as a labor source. Now I have my but so they will look at your stats and they'll look at mine, and mine will have similar stats to yours when it comes to stats, the secondary sources. But I also have the connection directly with employers throughout the province. And in many cases, that matchup may not exist. So what the employers are saying in the province is not exactly what's matching up to the statistical labor market information, the secondary sources. Yeah, so just wondering, like, and because that can certainly pose a problem with regards to, from my perspective, for program approval.
Oh, and I don't disagree. That's an area that is challenging, is to get that on the ground level data, not only sub-provincial, but even just getting it from employers, because that's not data that's readily accessible or collected on like specific skills, because the specific skills across industries might differ from employer to employer, and that's not a piece of information that I'm privy to through the sources that we have, and it can change over a 6-month period. Well, if we compare back to when COVID struck, the words curbside delivery probably never existed. Remote work was not spoken near as often. Contactless payments. These are new terms that have entered our labor market, and a lot of employers have to pivot to meet these needs, that meet the needs of the health authorities, that the all the restrictions that were put in place. So any employer who wasn't like a small business, who might not have had a website or accepted tap payments or something of that nature, they would have to pivot quickly, and those are skills that they would need to get in a relatively fast time frame. But it's not information that will be captured. And I certainly, understand where you're coming from. We base our information on the best available that we have, which would be through Stats Canada or Newfoundland Stats Agency, Department of Finance, other sources that we would tap into to get the secondary information. We don't do any primary research ourselves. That's an expensive and time-consuming venture. And just to put it in perspective, even with Stats Canada, the labor market data from Census 2021, which was last year, isn't coming out until the end of November this year. So there's always a lag and a delay in the information getting out. So after November of this year, we're going to have a wealth of data, but in all honesty, it's going to be a year and a half, 2 years old by the time we start to get to it. It's the best we have, and it's the best we can deal with. However, from your perspective, yes, you're getting primary information. You're talking to employers. You're understanding their needs as of this morning. And skills is not. It's a challenging one to get as well, because there's a whole discussion can go on skills, whether it's the technical skills that are through post-secondary institutions that have been changing and need to change as new ventures come on. The talk of the hydrogen plant. I'm sure there's no schools out there right now that are know exactly what sort of skill sets are needed to work
Mhm.
in such a hydrogen facility, because they're so new, and just emerging labor market area. So those are areas that definitely would need the input of employers to
Mhm.
understand what's needed.
Mhm.
And that will be the key thing there. That primary information, you can't trump that.
No.
That's going to be important. And I'll never be able to match that in anything that
Mhm.
I do,
Mhm.
for the work that we do at the
Sharon,
Department of Education.
I just
I
wonder if
guess.
Sharon McLennan wants to jump in on this one because I think that's kind of in
Mm.
her wheelhouse.
Yeah, and Derek, we've had these discussions, and we have a couple of tools, I guess, in our toolkit at the Newfoundland and Labrador Workforce Innovation Center, and Suzanne can definitely elaborate on our regional workforce development committees, because we have 10 across the province, and they're really to be planning and two-way communications platforms to really, I like to call them real-time labor market information providers. So to your point, though, Pauline and others, there's no question that that primary research is critical.
Mhm.
And right now, in addition to, say, these regional workforce development committees, who actually come together regularly, they're invited guests, we are also looking at surveys both of the unemployed or job seekers and employees, as well as employers. And these are initiatives that are coming that we've identified through our own research prior to the regional workforce development committees. Plus, we're looking now at how we may make that happen. So stay tuned. I would suggest that is something that, again, we'll have to find practical, feasible ways to do it, Derek. And I know that surveys aren't easy, but we have collaborations and partners that we can work with, and we are planning to work with in order to make that cost effective. Don't know if Suzanne, you
Okay.
wanted to add anything? Oh, sorry.
No, Sharon, you did a great job. But there's a couple people here who participates in the committee meetings, and we're trying to be, figuring that out, what the demand side of and what skills are required as a part of those committees. One thing I would like to add, though, is Derek did a great job on the LMI and the stats. Um, like you said, Derek, from that you compile from census and StatsCan and the finance and that sort of thing. What NLWIC did for the Regional Workforce Development Committee is we developed 10 LMI infographics. You can find, actually, I'll put it in the chat, the link to them on our website by region. Some of the information, as Derek said, can't be broken down regionally. It's really tough to get that data, but I'll put the link here now. It was a big piece of work, and of course, once new census data comes out, we're going to be looking at getting more information that can be shared, and we'll put that again up on our website for information. That'll be a moving target as we get more access to information. We'll make sure that it's updated and provided out to not only our committees but the public through our social media and, of course, on our website. The committees themselves are really trying to get at those workforce development challenges in regions, and we've done one round of going through an action planning framework, and we'll roll out now the second round of how we can look at issues and opportunities in workforce development specific to regions. So anyway, stay tuned. We're going to be sharing exciting information. There's lots of information on our website about the committees. If anybody ever got any questions, please reach out and I can definitely share that information.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne and Sharon. And if I may just go back to Derek for a minute. Derek, I guess the key point I'd like to, address while you're here, yay, is that at the end of the day, I know, for example, I'll give a prime example of a situation where we put in a program and it got denied because it said labor market information says that there's ample supply, something to that effect, okay? And I was like, okay, but the employers from who I surveyed are saying otherwise. So the department went to the labor market information department, and they hold what you guys say very, very dear. To the point, like I say, that I mean, I've gone back. I remember going back with that program. And I'm saying, we got the primary resources here, and their employers saying they need them desperately. I said, what's the point of going to the employers if you don't consider that? Eventually the program did get approved, but I guess the point I'm trying to make for the powers that be, I know from our perspective as a private training institution, there are committees when these programs approve. As I understand it, like I say, the directors may connect with one another to get information, like with labor market. So whoever is on those approval committees, I guess it's a very wise idea to let them know, now this is secondary, there is a lapse, all the things that you mentioned, Derek, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes they just don't realize that, don't realize that. So that's, I guess, a little bit of feedback for your department on that. So just when that's happening.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I can't speak to specific cases because we get requests all the time from different departments, different divisions, to compile labor market information. Now, when that, at least my level of folks would be aware of that, because that group did work within our department until last year before, when we had the things change. We shuffle around in here, shuffle the deck fairly regularly. But all those folks who used to be post-secondary, used to be with our department, are now over in Department of Education. But they would have been familiar with our approach and our data analysis. So, and that it is based upon, because we cite everything where it's coming from, it's that aspect that we have no control over. I'm not involved in decision making. I just feed into the bigger process. But certainly, to me, that's another piece of the puzzle, would be what comes from the ground level, I'll call it. And maybe the regional committees, that could be an area that they can explore going forward. Because that whole intention, I don't want to take the thunder away from the WIC, but I have been involved with these committees, so I know what they're about. But the intention is having access to some ground level information and supports, so that we can supplement the secondary data that we use, and fill some of those gaps, and supplement the information, and make the bigger picture. I like to describe labor market information as like one of those rock bridges that go across a stream. It's made up of different size rocks, and LMI is made up of different size pieces of information. Bigger rocks could be Stats Canada reports. Smaller rocks could be a news article or talking to an employer, but they all come together to help strengthen that bridge to get you from point A to point B. So the more information that you have, the stronger your case would be, rather than relying on one piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if we were in the States and the only piece of information we relied on was Donald Trump saying that he lost the election, or sorry, that he won the election. Then we'd be in a rather precarious situation.
So true. I like the rock bridge. I like that idea. And it's interesting because I can see where Pauline's coming from, and I'm hopeful that the work that Suzanne and Sharon's organization is doing is going to be supplementing, as you said. You brought up a great example. Stephenville and Port-au-Port Peninsula right now is poised for a completely different look at labor. The number of people, the sheer number of people that it's anticipated they will need. And then to Pauline's point, the skill set that those individuals are going to need is going to be very unique compared to, say, Bay Verte Peninsula, which is mining. And, in central Newfoundland, there's another completely different set of skills that are needed. So certainly it varies. And to your point, Derek, there's not a lot of that local, it's the provincial scope that you're able to get, not those sort of unique areas of the province that have very unique skills.
If I can just build on that, not to get too technical, but one of the key pieces of information we use is the NOC codes, National Occupational Classification. So those are Canada-wide NOC codes. They're 500 new NOx systems coming out later this year, 500 occupations that are at a 4-digit level that they've been developed and refined over the past 2 or 3 decades, and they contain various skills, typical skills associated with different occupations, typical educational requirements, etc. And everything is driven by the NOC code system in my world anyway, because anything released from Stats Canada is tied into a NOC code. From what the bit of research I've done on the hydrogen activity, there's occupations in a hydrogen plant that don't have NOC codes assigned to them because nobody knows how do they fit in there. They're a mesh of and a mingling of different engineering type positions, different technical, different trades. So there's no NOC codes in there. So that's a challenge that we would face from my perspective. Because I can't identify what NOC codes would be involved, I wouldn't be able to give any data on that. And there's no NOC codes out there right now, and I've read that on various reports that this is such an emerging sector, emerging operations, that the NOC codes, and more specifically the SIC codes in the United States, because they're really driving this, there's no one uniform set of, here are the typical operation, here's the layout of this occupational mix in this plant. That's a challenge, and that's where you have to talk to the employers and talk to the GH2 of the world. Okay, what type of skill sets do you need, and build it from that way up, because it's probably going to be a mesh of different technical operations or occupations, different types of engineering, and who knows what. I'm just speculating on that. That's the issues we're running into almost every day when we're asked questions. We're limited to what we can do, but we do provide the most current and what's accessible to us. That's all we can provide at this point in time.
Thus, I can see why it's difficult, Pauline, to get a program approved.
Yeah. But like I say, the labor market information from the employers is a critical piece, because they will, they will shout to the rooftops, even though the secondary information, or they can shout from the rooftops, the secondary information doesn't equal that, for sure.
And a lot of our data, like I said, is based upon historical information.
Yeah.
So we're using, since as much as I'm excited about getting the data come the end of November from census, it's still based upon 2021.
Exactly, Derek.
How much are things the same at that point in time? At least it'll be better than what we're using now, which is from 2016. So I know it's not answering or it's not giving you a positive answer, but it's what we have to deal with. That's the cards we're dealt with. I got a 5
Sharon,
and a jack and nothing else.
Sharon M.
Oh, hi, Derek. I know there are some limitations, but I was going to just ask you to perhaps speak to, and I could put the Labor Market Information Council's web address in the chat, but they do have a number of tools in their toolkit, one of which is the job postings dashboard. Again, there are the limitations, I guess you've reviewed that, is that it doesn't have the granular data as much as we would like, but it is another piece of the LMI puzzle, Pauline and everyone. So the job postings are those that are reflecting openings. You'll see in the dashboard, they also have attached to the job postings skill sets at different levels as well. Again, it's not perfect, but we think that and we have worked with the Labor Market Information Council before, and we have plans to do that again, both on the job postings dashboard, but more broadly, I guess, on a labor market information tool that we can develop that will give us that lower level and more granular data. But I would check it out. So I'm just gonna press send on that. But Derek, did you want to just speak briefly to that? Because again, I don't want to.
That's another rock in our bridge. It would help. It would help to fill that gap now. And I'm very familiar with that data set. It is limited to 25 and above. So that's one key thing there. So if there's vacancies that are 24 or less, they don't appear because of the arrangements they have with the supplier. They're not down to the onesie, twosies. So it's 25 or above is what they report on. It's challenging to get. I'm trying to think what the economic zones I think they use are the labor force survey economic zones, which I'm not a big fan of because that zone is Labrador, the whole west coast, which to me is, Labrador economy is different than Corner Brook economy, is different from St. Anthony, Port aux Basques, et cetera, and all points in between. It's a piece of information, but I don't focus on that. I prefer to use where we can get data down to sort of a rural secretariat region, because I think that's not too small, but not too big. And there is data, like if we go through community accounts, uh, Stats Agency maintains community accounts website, and they do break down information down to the rural secretariat region, which I think are more manageable sizes. And they will take census data. Now it takes time because they have to do all sorts of geographic tagging and changing of data, massaging data to make it fit into that. But it's certainly a good tool for looking at that level. Now, there's no, as far as I know right now, there's no job vacancy data included in there. But it does have a whole host of other labor market and socioeconomic data there. So it's certainly, I agree, Sharon. It's a piece of information that's out there. It would be one of the rocks that we would certainly go to.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments for Derek? Brent.
Maybe just a comment, Carol. Actually, Sharon, I thought you might mention it around our older workers. So, Derek, you put an emphasis there on that older population and how they could be a part of the workforce, or making sure we take advantage of them, because as time goes on, there's going to be more. So NLWIC recently funded, and now it's completed, a research project with the St. John's Board of Trade. And they looked at, they did surveys and interviews and made a bunch of recommendations around how we can attract and keep more older workers in the workforce. And it was amazing the number that they gave, because we hear a lot about shortages in the province, but they gave a number of 43,000 people in Newfoundland and Labrador that would be between the age range of 55 and 74 who could be a potential workforce. Anyway, the full report data is on NLWIC's webpage as well. Was a great research project. One of our regional committees actually is looking at how we can start to look at that for a region, for a specific sector. Anyway, some great things. The thing that just amazes me is when we say that there's another pool of people to be able to help fill with some of the labor shortages. 43,000 people in the province that fall in that age range that could be potential employees. To me, that's a huge number.
And some of
Just to
those
add,
would be, I
sorry.
think would be, just need tweaking to get them to come in. Is everybody going to come in? No. But there's segments in there that you can get much easier and much harder. So it might be changing, helping them out on how to operate a computerized inventory system or something like that. And I'm just throwing out stuff here now. But technology is probably one of the larger issues that the older workforce would have. Is they're not as comfortable as you in using technology. And technology over the past, since COVID, technology has gone through the roof. The adoption of new technology, like we're using here, people never used to the extent that's being used now. The various video chatting applications. So it's just thinking in a different way and not having a closed mind or a restricted mind. No, I can't hire that person who's 60, even though they might have God knows how much experience and life experience. They might have life experience, not have the technical side. The technical side is something you can probably teach or instruct or help them learn.
And
There's a couple things that jump at me there, Suzanne, with that report. Those that have been around on some of these calls, I've always been joking with Scott Andrews from Futurepreneur, who supports the young adult, and say you need the maturepreneur. We need those same supports as we're running into our second career. And I just turned 55 last month, so I'm now in that bracket. I shared an article on LinkedIn for anybody that's connected with me on LinkedIn about mature entrepreneurs, and that the older you are when you start your business, the more likely you're going to have success. Take out, the hot shots that founded Microsoft and Facebook. There's actually a larger segment of 40-plus-year-olds that started fantastic companies, including Zoom. A gentleman left WebEx in his 40s or 50s, I forget which age he was, and started Zoom. So, definitely there's a piece of the population that wants to contribute. And I know that our premier has talked extensively on entrepreneurs taking us out of bankruptcy. And yet, as an entrepreneur, I don't see always the support that's needed for an entrepreneur. However, it's another discussion for another day. There are a lot of folks in that age bracket that are starting businesses, starting second careers as well. So Brent, you had your hand up earlier, and then I'll go to Pauline.
Yeah, my question is, I guess, sort of been addressed. It was going to be around the older workforce. Derek mentioned 55 plus and 65 plus. I guess my question is, how big is that plus? And is that perceived as more of a people continuing to work longer in their careers or second careers, people coming back to the workforce after they've retired? Because I can't imagine the prospects of having to work till I'm 85. That's not real exciting.
I'll say yes to answer that, because there's no, and that's the excuse me. The challenge is there's no data on people who retire and then come back to work. That's a gap that exists out there. We just know if the labor force goes out to, there's people 75 plus working. That level of data is there, but we don't know what they did. Did they continue working? Or did they retire, come back, retire again? That path is not clear. The data is not collected to that level. But it would be anyone who wants to engage in the labor force. And there are challenges, and I'm familiar with, for those on the call who might know Mike Keogh, with the older, I can't remember the name of the group now, they've changed it. Older Workers NL, I think it's called. It's an informal group of older workers, like an association, but they're very informal. But I've spoken to Mike several times and helped him out with various questions on data. And he's, I won't say his age, but he is older than 65. But there are certain challenges, like from an age perspective as well. And I'm sure that you wouldn't mind me saying this, like insurance. When you hit a certain age, that's it, you can't get insurance. So those are the challenges. That's one challenge that would be that people might not know about. I didn't realize that if you're working, you can't get insurance when I think it's 70 or 69. At that age, that's it. You can't, even if there's an insurance policy or a health policy in your company, or maybe not health, but insurance, life insurance, you can't qualify because of age. So that's where obviously ageism comes into play here, and there's a lot of moving targets that need to align to make it easier for older workers to come in. But I don't think it's insurmountable to track down and engage with those groups, or engage with that segment to help fill some of the needs, whether it's knowledge, or they could be mentors, or they could be frontline workers, anything in there. And if they're retired and want to come back, I think, and there's some recent data, I don't have the stats in front of me, but Stats Canada did ask back earlier this year, for the group. Now they picked 60 plus, and I don't know why they picked that age group, but they picked 60 plus. And if you're still working, are you working because you want to work, or are you working because you need to work? Now they didn't really define, they left that to interpretation of the individual, want and need, a definition, but there's this portion there that indicate they need to work. So obviously pensions, etc. They're not earning enough on pensions, CPP, whatever income they have coming in. They're not earning enough to maintain a lifestyle that they want. That those to me would be those who indicated that they need to work. So it's certainly a segment out there that have that urge and requirement to work. And it's just how do you tap into it? What sort of changes or adjustments do you need to do to engage with these folks? And obviously, I think it would be case by case. There's no blanket area that can do that, but it's understanding that there is a group out there that we can certainly tap into.
Excellent. Thank you. Pauline.
Thank you. Suzanne and Sharon, I got to say, it sounds like you're doing some amazing work there for sure. And I'd love to be able to tap into that. So sign me up for whatever I need to be signed up for, sign me up. Thank you. Derek, you mentioned some valuable information there, some valuable input regarding, the skills, tapping into the mature adults. Did I use a bad word? I'm saying mature adults, seniors, or even the youth, the younger groups. And you talked about addressing what they may need to know, and which is very true. But as well, I think something else, and from my experience that I've come across, it's also very important that employers today are educated on these demographics and the needs and expectations of these different demographics, whether they are the seniors or whether they are the Gen Zs, because those groups have a different mindset than what the existing employer may be used to. So the employer themselves have to be educated and up to date on saying, okay, this is where the majority of your popular employees are coming from, then you need to be versed on the needs and expectations of that group.
And
Yeah,
to add to that, it's also the newcomers, the newcomers to our province. They have someone from another part of the world has a totally different work environment that they're used to than what they're working here. And obviously our department is doing multicultural training and workshops, etc., to help educate citizens of Newfoundland and Labrador to better understand that. But that's something that's continuous as well. Like it's training or an understanding, a mutual understanding. Not only do they need to understand the skills that somebody brings, but like I said, and I mightn't have said it clearly, but it's the needs of those individuals. Maybe a part-time is better for someone. Maybe they can't work Monday mornings because they're doing some family-related activity. It's understanding those nuances on a case-to-case basis, but it's being open and receptive. It's not saying, no, my job is 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. If you can't do that, you can't work here. That's the mindset we got to get away from.
Excellent.
Might have worked 10 years ago, but not going to work today.
Yeah, certainly flexibility, I think, is something, whether you're a young single parent or whether you're an older worker with medical appointments or whatever it may be, there's lots of different things. And certainly that core workforce, that majority workforce that you talked about, they have their own needs for flexibility as well. So, I do think the workplace has changed. I know that Sharon and Suzanne and their team are not only looking at workforce innovation, they're also looking at workplace innovation as another layer to look at, that how do workplaces attract people as well. Sharon Evans, I think you wanted to jump in and make a comment.
Well, you know what? Can't let this whole morning pass without saying something.
It's true.
I'm a senior. Yes, true. And, I guess I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm never offended with whatever you call me. But, the government services, I'm senior, I'm aged, I'm whatever. I'm just happy to be here and to still be relevant. And I think that's the most important thing that we can take from all these conversations. Why I'm sitting in on all these navigate coffee breaks and I like to small business week, kick off to this week. I'm excited, and I think the word retirement means different things for different people. That word doesn't exist in my world, retirement. I'm going to be relevant. I always say, I hope I'm sat in Lotus delivering a meditation and I sail off to wherever I'm going. I pity the people in my audience, but I'm sure, so it depends, Brent. I mean, you say you hope you don't have to work till you're 85, but depends on what you look at as being work. If you're being relative and you're contributing to society or having a positive impact, it's not work. So I did a session a couple of weeks ago with Fisheries and Oceans. I love the gig. They hired me. I said, whoever it was, Holly McDonald, she got in touch with me from Fisheries and Oceans, got me up there in Rocky Harbour, pulled up staff from Goose Bay, Corner Brook, all around the island. They all met there. And, they had I said, I applaud you. You see the most valuable asset, the people. It's the most valuable asset we have. So we're invested in people. So my work every day, 365 days of the year, is people. Starts with me, and then we reach out. So look at your work differently. The word that came out from government, reimagine. So reimagine. You're not just working to make ends meet. You're not working till you're 55 or you're 65, whatever it is. So it doesn't matter who you're engaging with. I mean, look, you just got to reimagine it. Everybody's contributing, and then you're not, dragging that ball and chain. You're assisting this world globally. We're making a difference.
Excellent. Thank you, Sharon. So Sharon did put her contact info at the beginning. She's with Siva Meditation out of Pasadena. I'm just going to, looking at the time, I'm going to run through the list of folks and give everyone a chance to say hello that may not have already said hello, and talk about who you are and where you're coming from. So I'm going to start with Mel and then Samantha, if I could, because you ladies are new to me. And so you may be new to some of the other folks here on the call as well. So Mel, do you want to, if you can, open up your mic and introduce yourself and let us know who you are?
Hi, my name is Mel Simmons. I'm located in Charlottetown, Newfoundland, and we are a manufacturer of healthy foods, and we are growing in a direction to open a facility here on the island to be able to provide sustainable food options in the event of pandemics and shutdowns. So we'll be offering co-packing services.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Samantha, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hi, I'm Samantha O'Brien. I'm actually manager of commercial services at Atlantic Edge Credit Union. So I'm kind of on the ground with our business people day in and day out, hearing the struggles that they have, because quite often we hear about it, why their financials aren't doing good and all that good stuff. So, and I'm based out of Deer Lake. However, we have branches right from Portabass up to Goose Bay. So I kind of go on up there and hear it from all edges of this side of the province.
Excellent. So curious, Samantha, is what the discussion this morning, is that resonating? Is that aligning with some of what you're hearing?
It is. A lot of what I hear is the shortages of the skilled trades. That's mostly what I hear a lot of. And the new startups trying to find people that are willing to stick it out through the harder times.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Hillary, do you want to say a quick hello, and then I'll go to Marvella?
Yes, I'm one of the retention coordinators for the Study and Stay NL program. We work with international students who are interested in settling here long term, so supporting their career goals or their entrepreneurial goals. And I also work with Reclaim Community CDO, and we're a nonprofit that helps out with infrastructure projects that have a social and environmental impact. I really wanted to say that this was such an interesting discussion. I wish I could have participated more, but I was running around, so I just have my headphones on me. But from the newcomer perspective, I think it's really interesting to see the labor market changes, the needs, and like the anticipated, I guess, demand in the future. And I think that'll really bode well with the students that we have coming through. Hopefully, they're all here so that they can contribute to solving that need.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Hillary, a lot of what was said here was reflected in the consultations we did back in June with your community.
Definitely, yes. And like thinking about how can we get our students more connected to rural communities? Because right now the vast majority are in St. John's. There's a few in Corner Brook. But outside of that, we really don't have much of an international student reach in the other institutions outside of those two areas. So thinking about how can we increase that rural community connection from our perspective to help students get out there outside of just St. John's.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Pauline, I see you've got your hand raised. Do you want to jump in, and then I'll go to Marvella for introduction? Just unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I forgot to ask, Carol, am I still frozen?
Nope, you're good now.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make the comment because it was just mentioned about the shortage in the trades, for example. I just want to throw out there to everybody, whether it's government or private, public institutions, and I'm sure all training and the other training institutions would appreciate this as well. That if there's a skill need out there, I'm actually putting this out to any industry. If you have a skill need out there, like a shortage in a particular area, please connect with us. Like I'll say myself, like connect with me and say, Pauline, in this industry, we are crying for people. Like, what can we provide training? Because that will make program training availability go much quicker through the process versus if, yes, we will do our research here to see what's in need. But when you have an employer coming to us and saying, all across Newfoundland, all this industry, we have a shortage here and this is what we need. I know based on experience, we've had that happen. People have called me and we've made things happen. But a lot of times, I know I've been at events where people will say, I wonder why the training institutions don't offer this. I said, well, give us a call and let us know. So just that little bit of information, it can make all the difference. So just throwing that out there. Thank
Excellent. Thank you. Marvella, I know you're on a phone, so I'm not sure if you're able to open up your mic there. You're not necessarily new to the community, however, you are in a new role today.
Brand new spanking roll, absolutely. So delighted to be here and see all your faces, even though you can't see mine. I haven't really figured out the camera section of this go-to-meeting yet, so I apologize. But I look the same as I've always looked, and I know I see a lot of smiling faces in front of me. I know a lot of you, so welcome. Some great discussion here this morning, and I think one thing that really resonated with me, Derek just mentioned, how you used to do things in the past with respect to your requirements and your flexibility issues or to hours of operation even, how things that worked in the past necessarily aren't going to work in the future. And I think employers are doing a really good job of adjusting as they need to. I mean, the way they responded during COVID itself at one aspect, but as well, they're really aware of the changes that are coming. And I think a lot of employers are making every effort to accommodate. So it's very uplifting to see that. On that note, I'll just pass it back to you so that you can continue your roundtable, but certainly so happy to see you. Hopefully next time we get together in this venue, you'll be able to see me.
All right, excellent. So Marvella didn't say it, but she has joined our sponsor, CBDC Humber, today. So that's where she is.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I said I was brand spanking new, but I didn't say who with. I'm with the Humber CBDC, so enjoy.
Excellent, thank you. Jennifer, I'll go to you to say a quick hello. Not everyone may know that you're somewhat connected into Derek's world.
Sure. So my name is Jennifer Bellows, and I'm a Labor Market Development Officer here in the Corner Brook office. I cover from Corner Brook right up to St. Anthony, though, so a large area with very different needs when it comes to labor market oftentimes. So I also work a lot with our programs at the Department of Immigration, Population Growth and Skills, available to employers, wage subsidies, training grants. So we also have opportunities to, upskill some of your current staff and also make some of your new staff increase their skills or help you hire more people using wage subsidies and grow your business. So we have a lot of programs available to new businesses, small, medium size, typically. So anybody can reach out to me and I'll put my number in chat.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to go to Brent to do a quick intro, then Carla. And Carla, I'm going to ask you to share some of the events that Enlo's got on this week as well, if you happen to have those at the top of your head. Brent, to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brent Decker. I'm the Economic Development Officer with the Department of Industry, Energy, and Technology based here in Corner Brook. Yeah, I mean, that's happy Small Business Week to everyone. Also happy Co-op Development Week. So Samantha, it's part of the credit union system. It's also Co-op Development Week. So I would be remiss if I didn't say to everyone, support your local small business and your local cooperatives. I guess from a work perspective, we don't. Our programming is around the the demand side of the labor market, not the supply side of the labor market. So, as Suzanne and Sharon mentioned, been some involvement with the regional workforce development committees, and I guess trying to provide a little bit of that perspective on labor market development as well.
Excellent, thank you, Carla.
Hi there, everyone. Happy Small Business Week. My name is Carla May. I work with NLO, Newfoundland and Labrador Organization of Women Entrepreneurs. I am a business advisor. Happy to work with women in our regions from St. Anthony to Port aux Basques to help you advance and grow your business. Thank you, Carol, for hosting, and to Marvella at CBDC Humber for, also hosting, sponsoring. So as for events that NLO is hosting, we are holding 2 events in Stephenville this year. On Thursday lunchtime, we're co-hosting with the CBDC Long Range a lunch and learn with Edwina Bateman with Avail HR. So that's free luncheon. Come out, take in the lunch and learn, do some networking, enjoy free lunch. And on Friday morning, we're hosting a networking session at Nomad Stages in Stephenville. So again, free, come on out, meet some other women in business and have some snacks and have a great time. Thank you very much, Carol. As for other events here in Corner Brook, I'll leave that up to Sherry to share with you.
Yes.
From the Greater Corner Brook Board of Trade.
That's where I'm going next if Sherry's there. I know she just turned off her camera, but I'm hoping she's there.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sherry. She might have just stepped away. All right, so there's a few things that I know of that are happening this week. Navigate Small Business has 2 networking sessions, Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday is at Grenfell, Thursday is at the college. Sharon's organization is partnering with TechNL for something tomorrow that I'm desperately wanting to go to. However, I have an event tomorrow afternoon that I'm facilitating at the exact same time, so I'm going to miss it. But it's a TechNL NL-WIC co-sponsored event, Connect the Dots, and that's happening at Marble Mountain. So you can register for that. I just got a reminder out, last chance to register today. Greater Corner Brook Board of Trade has their gala on Thursday evening. And so their nominations were received, voting went to the public over the weekend, and the top 3 finalists for a number of categories are posted on their Facebook page, and winners will be announced Thursday evening. I know, Carla, you're in the committee. Did I miss anything else? I think that's most of it. We had the proclamation this morning in Stephenville and the proclamation in Corner Brook.
Yep, I'm just looking it up to see if I can put it in the chat there, Carol.
Okay.
Business train on Friday.
Oh yes, the train, the Mill Whistle train tour around Corner Brook is Friday evening, afternoon, evening. Dress warmly, they say, and that should be an interesting tour. I think some of the folks have been on that before. I have to check that one out. Sharon has added over in chat that there is a recording. So this is the recording for the event tomorrow, Sharon? Ah, wicked. I'll be doing that then. I'll be watching that later. I was just so disappointed. I have an event 2:30 to 5 and yours is like 3 to 6. And I'm like, can't do it. So that's awesome. I'll be able to watch it there, which is great. So lots of exciting things happening this week for Small Business Week. Thank you, Derek, for being our guest here today and getting this conversation started. Really appreciate the insights that you've brought. And thank you to all the participants today for your questions and comments and feedback. Truly appreciate it. Oh, Sherry, sorry to hear that. No problem. We got you covered. And so to thank you for those of you in the ecosystem that support us entrepreneurs. We couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate the support that you give us as we go along our way. Our next coffee break is November 23rd. If you want to save the date, November 23rd. I'll be sending that out in a follow-up email. I am actually looking to shift from GoTo. Probably going to be going with MS Teams. Seems like a lot of government organizations are on that and don't possibly have as many technical issues. So we'll see. So the November session most likely will be on MS Teams, but I will send out the registration for that in the coming days. The session recording will be up on social media as well, and for anybody who wants to go back and see anything, Derek, if you can send me your slide deck, I'll share that with the participants, and then also put that out there. If anybody else is interested, they can contact me to get that. Again, thank you. As you mentioned, it's all public info, so we're not going to be talking tales out of school here. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate your enthusiasm here today. So enjoy the rest of Small Business Week, everyone. Oh, and I do want to mention Sharon's got an event coming up, a retreat coming up in November in Pasadena. So Sharon, I don't know if you want to throw a link in chat there as well. I can add that to our distribution. Taking care of ourselves. It's a one-day retreat with a lot of leaders around mental wellness, and we certainly would want to do that. And I think that's all I have for you today, folks. So thanks again for everyone joining us. Enjoy the rest of the week and take care.
Thank you.